Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 122, featuring the top 5 Lower Decks Season 2 moments. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I am the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight we've come to the end of another season of Star Trek, which means we're doing one of our season recap shows here on TrekRanks. So tonight it is the top 5 Lower Decks Season 2 moments. And yeah, that was an amazing season, incredible show. We're going to break it all down. And to help us do that, we have an incredible panel with us. So first up, making his 11th appearance tonight, it's our favorite Venezuelan American, who we first met in London, but now lives in Scotland and is recording tonight from New York. It's the Miranda class, Mr. Carlos Miranda. Welcome back, Carlos.
What an introduction, man. I think I'm gonna have to hire you to be my professional hip, everywhere I go.
There's like 6 locations there that I mentioned. So
it's true. We now live in Scotland, but I'm recording from New York, and I actually think the first time you and I met, it was in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You know, who's counting?
I love that story because we met on Twitter, and then you came over to record a TrekRanks, and your wife was like, "You're going to meet some guy you met on the internet to record a podcast."
And she literally was like, "Text me as soon as you get there."
True story, that happened. Okay, and our second guest tonight, making his TrekRanks debut. He's been featured many times in our temporal causality loops and our temporal distortions because his legendary alliterative lists are always making the show because he is an incredible wordsmith. Coming to us from the UK sector, Mr. Rich Masters. Finally, welcome, Rich.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Carlos. Thanks for having me on. I'm absolutely honoured to be on. It's a nice episode to have someone who's so addicted to cartoons and Trek on.
Oh, it's perfect. This is perfect.
Perfect.
So, Rich, let's get into this. I want to hear your quick Trek origin story as a first-time guest. What's your Trek backstory? I'm assuming you've seen it all. What's your favorite Trek? Let's hear a little snapshot of your Trek background.
Okay, so yes, definitely seen it all. My dad got me into Trek just simply because he used to work nights, and I used to come in from school, and we used to watch Star Trek together before we went to work, and that was how we got together basically and bonded when I was a young boy. But my absolute favorite is DS9, but Lower Decks is coming up pretty fast, I've got to admit. It's so great. It's definitely taking at least third spot at the moment. Lower Decks
is incredible. If I didn't have if I didn't weigh so heavily quantity over quality, quantity is such a big factor for me. Yeah, but yeah, Lower Decks, incredible, absolute, the highest quality, which we will discuss tonight. So, all right, let's get into this. Our TrekRanks recalibration.
What are you recalibrating? Everything. It's a sweeping, a recalibration of all systems.
As regular listeners will know by now, general order number 1 of the TrekRanks charter is that we love Trek and we love to rank Trek via some deep dive topics just to get the conversation started. And remember, it's not about the ranks. That's just our excuse to talk about Star Trek. Nobody cares. Because, as Mr. Spock himself has said, our show is all about
infinite diversity in infinite combinations, symbolizing the elements that create truth and beauty.
No wrong answers, not about being right or definitive in any way. It's just about sharing the things we love about Trek, and we love it all from TOS to TNG, straight through to Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline, and now Discovery and short treks and Star Trek Picard, Lower Decks. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of TrekRanks is current through 811 episodes of Star Trek, which currently translates to the end of Season 2 of Star Trek Lower Decks, which makes sense since that's our topic tonight, and that's why we're doing this show.
Have boosted power to the communications bandwidth.
We appreciate that, Mr. Kim, and you can find TrekRanks on Subspace at TrekRanks.com, and you can contact me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. You can also call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. So, Carlos and Rich, let's hear how everybody can get a hold of you on Subspace. Carlos.
Well, as a lot of your regular listeners know, Jim, I'm really active on Twitter. Follow me at Double Mac because in addition to Star Trek, I'm pretty obsessed with coffee. So hence my connection to Janeway.
And noodles. No, ramen. Sorry, and ramen.
And noodles and ramen. And ramen too. But
Okay.
Rich and I first connected in addition to Star Trek because Rich also is into ramen. Am I correct, Rich?
You totally are. We had a little silent competition for a few months where I don't think you knew we were competing because every time you would post a picture of your ramen, I would get obsessively competitive and want to make better ramen.
I knew we were competing, Rich. I mean, I was winning. I was winning. Don't get me wrong.
Welcome to Ramen Ranks. Rich, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm pretty prolific on Twitter as well. Not trying to be competitive now, obviously. You can find me at Masters Rich, and then following my two podcasts at Tapon on Subspace, which is a Lower Decks-esque show that we produce, and my cartoon podcast at Toonhounds.
Awesome. I love it.
Amazing.
It's not a competition, Carlos. Remember, I always have to remind Carlos.
Wow.
He brings that,
Okay.
because you bring out the competitive juices in myself. Okay, let's.
Yeah.
I mean, the best was when we did the top 5 movie villains, and all we did was argue for 2 hours, and we had 3 duplicates. We had 3 of the same picks, and we argued for an hour. Okay, let's get into our level 1 diagnostic.
Run a level 1 diagnostic series. Come.
As we do for topics of this type, this week's diagnostic cycle is going to be breaking down our TrekRanks style for how we go through our season recap. So this week, we're not just picking 5 random items that we want to highlight as our top 5 moments or episodes or whatever. Instead, we are categorizing and defining each round just to cover a little bit more ground. So here is how we break it down. Our top 5 Lower Deck Season 2 moments. Round 5 is our favorite production design element. So that could be like your favorite ship or a prop or a costume or a score, visual effects, whatever. Always interesting with the animated show, how anybody looks at that. Round 4 is our top performer or actor or creative. And that can be, that's a real world pick. So not necessarily just what you saw on screen, but also maybe off screen in terms of how they connect with people on Twitter or Star Trek fans. Round 3 is the Dabo Round Total Wildcard. You can pick anything you want. Round 2, favorite character, however you want to frame that. And then round 1, that's your favorite episode of the season, because that's what we do here at TrekRanks. And then in secondary systems, we'll get a few outline picks from everybody. So, all right, let's get into our prime directive so we can see how everybody broke it down.
But what you're proposing is exactly the kind of tampering the Prime Directive prohibits.
Okay, Carlos, let's start with you, man. How did you define your Prime Directive and come up with your picks for these categories?
For the first time, I was usually when you ask me to do on the show and you tell me what category we're talking about, I immediately know a handful of things I want to talk about, just immediately. And then I have to challenge myself to be like, okay, half of these are basic and obvious, go deeper, right? Unless it's Star Trek 6, Jim. If I can talk about Star Trek 6 in this country, I will every single time. I'm bringing up Star Trek 6 in this one, don't worry. But this one, I was kind of scatterbrained and all over the shop because I really, I love this season so much. And I know we'll talk about it, but I really did. I think this might arguably be one of the best seasons of Star Trek in the last 20 years. I mean, it was amazing. So I told myself that I was just going to really, I don't care if it's basic, I don't care if they're obvious. I just told myself, what were each of the categories, things that you really just loved? So rather than, I took a step back and really thought about the things that I really, really, really loved in each category. And hopefully each of my picks are just basically really a few of my favorite things.
There's no way that won't be an awesome list. I love it. Good breakdown. How about you, Rich?
Really, really similar. It was scattershot this morning when I was trying to whittle down my list of about 500 things I loved about this season, because I totally agree with Carlos. It's up there with DS9 season 4, Voyager season 4, TOS season 1. It is such a great series with things that I love from every single episode, that my list was, and I'm not exaggerating by this, about 50 items long this morning, and I have spent the whole day whittling and trying to get that sort of pure nugget at the bottom of the crucible. So this is going to be my most beloved things about this season. They might be slightly obvious. I'm pretty sure there's some stuff that we're going to have duplicates of, but I just think there are some really standout things in this season, and it's just been a great season, and it's really hard not to pick the things that just speak to you. Yep,
that's perfect. That's going to be great, and that just means you're going to have more to talk about in the secondary systems.
Exactly.
If your list is 50 deep. Okay, so for my prime directive, I started by, I wanted to check what I picked after season. Actually, that's not true. I was going to say what I picked after season 1 when we did our recap show, but I stopped myself and then I came up with my picks first, just the moments and trends and things that were kind of hitting me as appropriate for these topics. And then I double checked just to make sure that I wasn't really repeating myself. And I was close in a couple of places, but I was impressed by how different it was compared to my season 1 picks for my top 5. So honestly, when I got to each category, I got to say, I didn't have to dig too hard for my picks. There was a couple of things that jumped out at me. And, like with you guys, I just wanted to talk about, I just picked the things that just, it's the old cliche, just sparked joy. I just wanted to talk about and I wanted to highlight. So, and there's a few of them that I'm excited to talk about. I love it. I'm not sure. I mean, there will probably be some duplicates somewhere, but I think we're going to be pretty good in covering a wide variety. All right, going to be awesome. Let's do this first. Cadet Kazon, introduce us to the new order.
It'll be alphas like us that determine the future of this quadrant. That will be the new order of things.
Thank you, First Cadet Kazon. And as always, a quick reminder on how we're going to go through the order of things. First, everyone will start with their 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease their pick. Then we'll each reveal our specific Lower Deck Season 2 moment and the episode that we think showcased it best. And at the end, we'll ask everyone for a few secondary system selections for the picks that just missed our lists. And as always, if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. Okay, Carlos, we're going to start with you. What is your number 5 pick for your top 5 Lower Deck Season 2 moments, round 5 production design element?
All right. My 5 words are: the Empire still strikes terror. And the hashtag is fight the power. And for my production design pick, I just like this one kind of came to me pretty quickly. Like I think all the interiors and exteriors of every starship on this show have been amazing. But to me, this season in particular, the exteriors and the interior of both the Vulcan ship and the Klingon ship in the 9th episode of the season, which is in Klingon, and I will not try to pronounce. Well, okay, I will. Wedge Dosh. Exactly. I think we come from different parts of Kronos. My accent's a little bit from the north, Jim. Yours sounds a little bit more from the south. But I just loved it. I thought that the production design in that episode in particular, and both obviously the exteriors we had seen, obviously we've seen less Vulcan ships, but obviously we've seen a bird of prey in every single incarnation of Star Trek many, many, many times. But just the interior and the exteriors of both of those ships to me were just amazing because, one of the best things about this show is that this show digs deep into Trek history always, particularly 90s Trek, but not exclusively, right? But Mike and his crew have such like they wear the love for like Berman era Trek on their sleeves and they highlight it at every single point. And this to me just kind of exemplified that so well, because you have the interiors from the Vulcan ship that really kind of harken back to Enterprise and every single kind of ugly like Vulcan interior that you ever saw. And then you obviously the Klingon ships, which we've seen all over TNG and DS9. It was such geeky joy to kind of see, the lower decks version of a Klingon ship and the lower decks version of a Vulcan ship. And I was here for it completely. And again, to me, it was just that love that the creators and the writers and the artists on that show of Lower Decks that they have. And those details in the production design, you think about the opening sequence in the holodeck when Mariner is escaping from the Cardassian prison and the quarters look just like Deep Space Nine. And it's just, to me, the entire production design, obviously of Starfleet because it's Starfleet, but of the entire kind of alien races and they always go deep into 90s era Trek. To me, I'm just here for it all the time.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, we have really never seen the inside of a Vulcan ship like that. There's been a few here and there, but the way the impact that had, seeing it and seeing the crew and how they, it's just genius. I mean, I love this pick because they are absolutely beautiful. That Vulcan ship, I mean, I am in love with it. The Klingon ship just looked like a matter of honor. It just looked like everything we've seen and known. And it was just, their style is so great.
And I loved how T'Lyn looked a lot like Valeris from Star Trek 6. I'm just going to put that out there.
With the headband. Yep.
Yeah. I thought of you, Jim.
I was wondering where they got the names and if there's like a hidden, because the Vulcan ship was like Cheval and the Klingon was like it looked like it's pronounced cheetah, right? Like Chita, right? With the apostrophe. So, Rich, what's your take on this pick? I love it.
I love that. I had it on my list as well. I think it was just, you saw a snapshot, and even without the characters, you knew exactly where you were, what species it was. You didn't have to look for any of the finer details because you saw the gritty earth tones of the Klingon ship and how cold and how stark it was and sharp edged, and you knew you were on a Klingon ship, and you saw the warm blues and meditative tones of that Vulcan ship, and you knew exactly where you were. And it was just, we can't have been spoiled enough by that, because we've never seen the inside of a Vulcan ship and its culture so proudly on display without a human interaction being there. And it's beautiful. It's calm, it's serene, all except some of the crew maybe. Seeing the readouts and the displays and stuff like that, it was such a treat for the eyes. Seeing those two ships was just such a highlight of the season.
It's incredible. I'm pretty sure we'll talk about Wedge Doge more later. So, okay, Rich, let's get to your round 5 pick. What's your production design element?
I've got my 5 words are Merlin's mascot makes marvelous machine. And my hashtag is "You Can Make Us Go, Mez." And it's the USS Archimedes from First Contact.
Oh my God, I love this. Is my secondary system is one of my picks. Is exactly this. Good.
I'm a self-confessed bit of a ship junkie, and I just think throughout this season we've been just so incredibly spoiled with old designs, multiple designs from different species. But this ship might just be my absolute favorite Starfleet vessel of all time.
Wow.
I've always liked the Excelsior class and the Sovereign classes because they remind me of the elegance of old warships like the HMS Victory. The Excelsior class has this boat-shaped hull with really wide sides, and the Sovereign to me always looked like it was built to glide through space. And this mixes the best of those two designs, I feel. Having those really long Sovereign class nacelles with the Excelsior's hull. The Archimedes had both of those design features, and it was such a beautiful, amazing looking ship. And the kudos to Titmouse Animation, because they did such a great job with that ship leaving the starbase. That shot was I forgot I was watching an animation for a second, and I thought it was live action because it was so perfect.
It happens all the time where you forget you're watching animation when they do these ship shots on these space setups. This pick is amazing. So I've never been a fan of the Excelsior. It's always been like one of my least favorite. But the sovereigned up Excelsior, oh my God, this ship, it is so great. It looks so good. I know that it's so, there's a lot on Twitter about people thinking that it was going to be an Excelsior class that had been sovereigned up. It's the Obena class or Obina class. He's
Obina,
named after one of the production people on the show. Incredible. It is absolutely gorgeous. This was definitely in my secondary systems. Carlos, what's your take on the USS Archimedes? And I'm assuming your episode's first contact, since that's the only one that's appeared in. Yeah. So Carlos.
Yeah, I share Rich's kind of I too am a ship junkie, but definitely I very much lean towards Starship, like, late 24th century Starfleet aesthetics. Like I'm such a geek for it. I love an Akudagram. There's nothing to me like Starfleet ships from that era. And I loved it, but I also love the fact that you mentioned this, Rich. I mean, I think that, you have the Parliament class that they showed. Yeah. Obviously, we got a Luna class. Are you kidding me? Like, that thing's amazing, Yeah. And the interior of the Luna class that looks so much like the Enterprise E, but like, obviously, like a remixed version of the E. And, we saw a Nova class, which is one of my, like, top 5 favorite ships. I'm such a geek for, again, Starfleet design. Like late 20th century Starfleet design, inside and outside.
I love it.
And obviously, Mike and his crew are also geeks of that stuff. And for them to show us ships that they love, but also show us kind of remixed ships and new ships, it's just, I'm here for it. And I thought the Archimedes was beautiful. I kind of share Jim's. I mean, the Excelsior is an amazing looking ship, but I am, like It doesn't make my top 5, and it probably doesn't make my top 10. I think it's a beautiful looking starship. Don't get me wrong. But it was just, the Sovereign, it cracks my top 3 and probably my top 2. And depending on the mood, it might be my favorite starship. So when you combine any of that, when you put any of this, like the elegance of the Sovereign, which is whether it's the nacelles or whatever it is, and you combine it with anything else, you're not going to mess it up. And so I was here for it. I thought it was amazing. I love it so much. I
mean, pretty clear, since our first 2 picks have been production design elements are starships. So
exactly.
I love it. And I think one of the reasons I was always down on the Excelsior is because they did such a good job in the search for Spock, convincing me to hate it. Because that was kind of the whole... They did. I was 16 years old. I'm like, I hate that ship. Okay. Let's go to my round 5 pick. I don't hate it. I didn't mean that. Okay. Production design element. My 5 words and a hashtag. Inspired Trek punchlines elevate everything. Hashtag. This is how we kick ass in the Delta Quadrant. And it is the humor and the comedy. And I'm just highlighting it this week for this pick. My episode is We'll Always Have Tom Paris. So I'm just going to frame it by saying I get that there's all kinds of people. There's all kinds of different senses of humor.
The ship tried to collect us, Captain. Where's Kayshon?
Kayshon, when he became a puppet.
And I just appreciate smart, subtle, sharp, deadpan humor so much. And the way this show hits on that, while at the same time checking the boxes for humor that I'm not necessarily a big fan of slapstick humor or fart jokes or shock humor, but they do that too on this show. You know what I mean? With like Mugato Gumato, but it's still hilarious. And all the humor, all the ways they hit the slapstick and they hit the shock jokes, but they also have these incredibly smart, subtle Star Trek jokes. And so I'm going to give 2 examples of what I'm talking about there. And they are, so the first one is this layered joke inside We'll Always Have Tom Paris.
Guess who I get to meet today? The creator of Fairhaven, Captain Proton himself, Lieutenant Tom Paris.
No way, that's awesome.
him. Is he still a salamander?
No, that's not. It was a celerity-induced accelerated somatic mutation rate, and he's fine now. He was the first human to break the transwarp barrier, and today he's on the Cerritos.
You have a Voyager plate?
I collect all sorts of plates, and I love Voy. See, I have signatures from all the other bridge crew, from Janeway all the way down to Kim. Everyone from Voy.
Why do you keep saying Voy?
That's what I call Voyager to save time.
It doesn't.
They set it up for the whole episode, or at least the parts with Boimler. And it's this whole long setup for me, one of the best payoffs for a Star Trek joke when Boimler falls out of the bridge and he gets up and he's so excited. Tom Paris, can I just say I'm a huge fan? And Tom Paris yells Kazon because his hair and everything. This Kazon joke is all-time perfection. I mean, I am laughing so hard.
Personal log cannot be recorded.
I'm gonna die, and it's all because of this stupid plate! Don't do it, Bradward! Not the plate! Oh, God. Oh, no. I do exist! Tom Paris! Okay, Kazon! Tom Paris, can I just say that I'm a really huge fan, and I will wait for you!
I mean, you don't see it coming, and I appreciate it so much because I know if you heard our Delta Quadrant species episode, I picked the Kazon as my number one species because I love them, and this is such a smart freaking joke. Just killed me. And my second example, at the end of First Contact, when Tendy's getting a promotion and she says to Dr. Diana, like Jadzia Dax? And Diana just says, who the fuck is that? I don't know who that is. No, like Spock. This is all-time classic. You can't write better Star Trek jokes than this, and I appreciate it so much. And I even appreciate the Magato whacking it with his horn. So, okay, Star Trek, the humor in Lower Decks. Rich, what's your take on that?
I thought that the humor hit far closer to home in this season than the first season. And that's not saying anything bad about the first season.
Right.
It's just that the references and the Easter eggs actually enhanced the humor and enhanced the jokes. My personal favorite joke in the whole season was watching Boimler trying 100% the Borg cube in Cerritos, which, in what I already consider to be quite a great concept for an episode. Just the humor has been dead on the whole season. It's just been so great. It's such a great pick.
Yeah, it's perfect summary. Carlos, how about you, man?
I couldn't agree more. I think that I think the first season was very hit or miss. I very much enjoyed the first season, but not the way I've loved this season, right? I think that there are 2 or 3 great episodes in season 1, and I think everything else is kind of like a B. There's a couple of bad ones I felt like, but I've really loved this season, and I think that the writers are they feel more confident and comfortable in their skins and like writing for the show and who these characters are. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, to the point that the other day I was talking to my wife, who's famously not a Trekkie, but she knows a lot about Star Trek just through osmosis. She's like, who watches this show? And I was like, I don't know. Like beyond like Star Trek like fanatics, right? Like who's watching this show? Because
so true.
And so I'm like, how does this show exist? Like, how do they make the economics of this show work? Because like, if you're a Star Trek fan, like you are going to love this show and the jokes are going to land. That Jadzia Dax joke is in my top 3 favorite, like not forget
so
best Star
funny.
Trek jokes. Like she's so excited. Like, all of those characters are such fans of Star Trek. And her reaction of like, who the fuck is that? It was so good. It was so good. It was so good. But then again, I'm like talking to my wife, I'm like, I'm explaining the whales in the last episode, right? And Cetacean Ops to her. And she's like, what? And like, I'm like, this is only funny to somebody who like in the 90s knew that in the technical manual of Star Trek The Next Generation, and there were like 2 small references, like it's such deep, they're all such deep cut jokes, and it comes with an Ezri and a Jadzia. Who's going to get that, And so I'm in awe that this show exists because it works. It's so funny, right? And I love it. But like, there's, like you got to be like a 90s Star Trek nerd, right?
But the beauty of it is you don't have to be, because there's still enough there. And there's all these other funny things and smart storytelling devices.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to round 4 and our top performers. Carlos, what do you got?
Okay, so my 5 words are dark truths about scientific disparity. And my hashtag is Unchained Melody. And my top performer, and I'm going to butcher his surname, his last name, is Fred, the guy who plays Shax.
Yes.
Right?
Tasha Tori or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. And I love the voice cast. Every voice actor in the show is on fire. Every single one, right? And the guest stars, like everyone is great. But to me, Shax and all of his one-liners this season have just been like comedy gold. The fact that he's just like a live wire, like, and at every second he's about to just like explode and want to kill something. And obviously because he's Bajoran, you kind of, you guess at his backstory and you kind of understand him. But it's just, his one-liners have been amazing. And Fred delivers them with such passion and gusto. And it's just such a joy. And he's such a minor character in many respects. By the way, I love that they killed him and then they brought him back in true Star Trek fashion, but with no explanation. It's just brilliant. And, his lines of like, it's naked time, and fighting fascism is a full-time job.
It's naked time!
But literally the best one by far when he just looks at at all the the ambassador that keeps on replicating, and he's just like, your paw is weak and it disgusts me.
Your paw is weak and it disgusts me. I don't even know what that is, but I don't like your toe.
I think that's one of the great, and like literally everyone can go home now. Like there will never be a better Star Trek joke and the way that it's delivered ever.
Oh God, he's so good. He's so good. And his return actually it was in, we'll always have Tom Paris.
Yeah.
I mean, just and again, such a smart Star Trek joke theme to do that. I mean, as soon as I knew that that's what they were doing, oh my God, the smile on my face. Shax is amazing. They fooled me hook, line, and sinker. I thought he was never going to come back. And what a brilliant job they did with it. I love this pick. Fred, I think it's Tasha Tori, but I don't know for sure. Rich, what's your take?
I love Shax. I think he's like held together by a wing and a prayer because he is so close to the edge of falling apart. But watching him pour his rage into making an incense ashtray shaped like a puppy is going to be burned in my memory for the rest of my life because that was so hilarious.
So good. Hey, what was the episode you picked, Carlos?
Oh, well, to be honest, I didn't really pick one. I was thinking all the, if I had to pick one, I would say in I Excretus, because it, that line of it's naked time and
it's naked time.
I get such a smile every time he's on the screen. And also he kind of follows that like Worf and Seven like instinct of like just blow it up,
right,
just kill it, kill it, and like it's so good,
so good. I mean, how am I supposed to keep my stats if you don't pick an episode, man? Jeez.
All right, fine.
Okay. All right, Rich Masters, what's your top? Who's your top performer?
Okay, so I've got my 5 words are: artist's assiduity allows adoration application. And my hashtag is mutual affection direction. And it's Barry Kelly, the art director.
This is an awesome pick. He is amazing.
And the episode I picked, obviously, is going to be Kayshon, his eyes open.
Did he direct that one?
No, he didn't. He was the art director for the team.
Right. Yeah.
And just the level of affection to couch this season right in the heart of Star Trek is just something special. It's not just about reference for joke's sake. There's a real duty of care being paid to the legacy of Trek and unifying what we consider to be, the classic 90s and modern ages of Star Trek. there are references that are in service to the plot and are influenced by Mike McMahon, but like the scene with the avians in the tree, for example. But there are other touches that the art team have taken it upon themselves to add. So background elements that don't get mentioned. So we can talk about the collector and, you know, the copy of Hotel Royale or the Logician's hat from Take Me Out to the Holosuite. But also, we saw Galor and Hideki class ships in Mariner's holodeck program. Just that level of attention to detail is just insane.
I love this pick. Let's give Barry J. Kelly a shout out. This is a name that's on the credits. I feel like when Lower Decks is all said and done, he's going to be a guy that gets a lot of credit for the way this show treated Star Trek and added to Star Trek and celebrated Star Trek. I think he's directed a few of the episodes, but he's the art director. Is that his role? Because I see him in a lot of the interviews and stuff. I've seen his name. I saw him at STLV a while back, and just impressive guy. Obviously knows his Trek. Obviously super talented at what he does. He has an animation track history. So he works at Titmouse, the art house that does the art for Lower Decks. Incredible. I love it. I thought about, highlighting somebody like this. I'm so glad you did it. Barry Kelly deserves all of it. Carlos, what's your take? Do you know much about him or seen many of his interviews?
I've seen one or two on Trek News and Trek Movie and things like that whenever they retweet things. But the art direction on the show is phenomenal. And again, obviously a lot of it flows from kind of Mike as executive producer and showrunner, but you're right. It takes a village, right? And so many of the artists, especially the ones that you see on Twitter, are not just casual Trek fans, but hardcore Trek fans. And it does take a village to ensure that every single detail, every ship, when she's crashing, when she's Mariner's crashing out of the Cardassian prison, you see all of those ships, you see the Jem'Hadar ship, it isn't it cannot possibly flow from one person. So it is, I love the fact that you're kind of highlighting that it is, again, that it is an entire community of Trek fans that are behind the scenes and driving this show.
Yeah. Amazing. Love that pick, Rich. Thank you. That is a great one. Okay, let's go to my round 4 pick, top performer, 5 words and a hashtag. Love one, love both, boo, hashtag screaming while beaming. And it is Jack Quaid, voice actor for our favorite Bradward Boimler. And my episode was Kayshon, His Eyes Open. So last year I went back and looked, I picked Tawny Newsome for all her amazing performances. And this year I'm going with Jack Quaid for everything that he brings to Boimler. And I chose Kayshon, His Eyes Open to represent him for a few reasons. First, just another piece of Trek brilliance from the production team and Mike McMahon to get the way they brought Shax back, to get Boimler back to the Cerritos via a Riker-style second chances transporter duplication is just absolutely genius. That when I realized they were doing that, I was just like, oh my God, I love these people. And then second, there's 3 or 4 moments in this particular episode that really stuck with me. First, he's got his impassioned defense of the Enterprise and their concertos, and they insurrected. I mean, just such good writing, such good delivery. I love Boimler.
Ooh, I love me an undercover op.
You could tell the captain was bummed to have to stay on the ship. Badass like Riker, he'd rather have boots on the ground.
He must have been so bored on the Enterprise. I mean, 7 years of what? Exploring?
On a ship with 5 daycare centers.
Are you talking about the D? The flagship? They went to different dimensions. They fought the Borg. They insurrected.
They had regular string quartets. Wow, what a rush.
Play me a concerto.
And then I love this shot. Again, this says everything about this character and the difference between the Starfleet way and the Lower Decks way. And it's Boimler being beamed up from underneath the beam, and he's just screaming during the whole transport. And I just love those Jack Quaid screams. So funny. And then I love every time, this is a total Jack Quaid-ism, every time something kind of goes down or something Boimler's not on board with, he just goes, boo. I just love that delivery. And in this case, he did it when he realized that there was a transporter duplicate when he got back to the ship and just goes, boo.
Well done, Mr. Boimler.
Thank you, Riker. I mean, Mr. Captain.
Get him to sick bay. Have the doc check him out. Riker to bridge. Give me warp in the factor of 5, 6, 7.
Captain, shuttlecraft incoming from the planet. It's ours.
What? That's not possible. We all beamed off.
Shuttle pilot's in distress. Requesting transport.
Could be a Paklin trap. Energize. Mr. Boimler?
You guys made it! The Paklins got stuck in the door, so I... Oh, man, a copy of me got transported out? Boo. I'm the transporter clone? Boo.
The distortion field must... Oh, I've heard this tune before. Let's hear it for the Boimlers!
Yeah!
I love it. So, yeah, the guy just brings a great energy and relatability to the character. I love Boimler. He's honestly my favorite thing about Lower Decks. I love this character so much. And Jack Quaid's been awesome on Twitter this season, just engaging with people and obviously loving every second of kind of being indoctrinated into Trek. So that's my pick, Jack Quaid. This highlighting him. Carlos, what's your take on Jack Quaid?
Listen, man, I think he kind of is Boimler in real life. Like, yeah, I don't think that he's got to stretch too far in many respects, and he talks about that on Twitter. I think he's so good, and his line delivery. And I mean, I watched. Well, I'll get into this later, but his mirror version of Boimler as well is a particular favorite, right? Especially also with his like 5 chest hairs. It's just amazing. It's so amazing. Good. And his delivery, he's so funny, he's so sharp. And also Jack in real life, engaging with all of us on Twitter, and his love of Star Trek is very tangible. And so yeah, it's a great pick. And Boimler, Boimler forever, basically.
And he rules in The Boys as well. Rich, how about you?
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's good you mentioned The Boys because he's awesome in that as well. But he is just, you can tell a voice actor is doing a great job when it seems like they're having fun doing it.
Yeah.
And his performances, like Tawny Newsome, are just impeccable. They're just great. His takes are phenomenal. He has a wiry energy to him that really fits the character. And it's just great. It's great watching him because you can see his performance even through the animation. You can almost feel like the animation has been somewhat influenced by them watching him.
He has a wiry energy while he's screaming while being beamed up.
Definitely.
Oh my God.
So good.
The best.
All right, let's go to the soup round.
And now, as I'm sure that somebody out there has said, it's time to pay for the soup.
Carlos, what is your... Oh, no, sorry, it's the Dabo round this time. Yeah, the Dabo round. Here we go. Carlos, what is your Dabo round pick?
My Dabo rounds, my 5 words are very nearly passes as human. And my hashtag is guess who's back again. And Jim, you're going to hate me. This is going to be real bad for your stats, man. But my round 3 Dabo round is stars, all the stars from Trek's past. Because
I love it.
This show has just been, they don't just bring people back for the hell of it. They do it in such like a great way. And I love the fact that we've gotten, Robert Duncan McNeil and Alice Kriege and Jonathan Frakes and Jeffrey Combs. It's just been incredible. The stuff that they got Alice to say as the Borg Queen is amazing. And so I'm just, I love all of these callbacks. And, whoever thought that we would see Tom Paris again, whoever thought that Jeffrey Combs would be another evil, slimy character on Star Trek again. And I just love that these guys love 90s Trek so much and they do such a good job. I mean, Captain Sonia Gomez, come on, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's drinking hot chocolate in one scene. So to me, the Dabo round had to just kind of be, I was talking about earlier, trying not to be too basic when it came to my picks. But the reality of it is that the joy I got, like the sheer joy I got when every time they brought back like a legacy character or a legacy actor, not necessarily, like Jeffrey Combs, he wasn't playing Wayoon or Brunt or anything like that, but it just brought such a smile to my face. And that's exactly what I want for this show. I want to tell, I want them to tell a good story. I love the crew. I love the ship. But at the same time, they remix it with classic Trek, and they do it so well. So to me, it just had to be, across the entire season, the fact that they just reached back and brought everyone, from Jonathan Frakes to Alice Krige to, Robert Duncan McNeil and all these other people back. And I was here for it every single time.
Okay, I love this pick. There's so much of it. As you started rattling them off, I was like, man, there really are so many. I'm going to make your choice be Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, since that was Jeffrey Combs' Agamus. But how great is this Agamus character? I mean, Jeffrey Combs can do anything, because while you're always aware it's Jeffrey Combs because he's so good, but he also transforms. It's just weird how he does that evil computer so impressive. The guy is incredible.
Here's your Lord Agamus, safely disconnected from his network of drones.
Hey now, this has all been a huge mistake. Just let me access your computer mainframe and I'll explain everything.
Nice try. Save it for the roboticists at the Daystrom Institute. Ransom?
All right, fella, in you go.
So, you're the muscle, huh? Bet you couldn't throw me into that control console over there.
Over there? By that network port? That's nothing. I could easily toss... Oh, you almost got me.
I underestimated your intelligence. Clearly, you should be the captain.
Yeah. Anyone hungry? I could eat.
I love it. Agamus, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. You got Sonia Gomez. I mean, we kind of got spoiled on this a year ago with there was rumors Lycia Naff was coming back as Sonia Gomez, but God, they just hit a home run with that. And of course, Paris and the Borg Queen. And I think we all did the same thing with the Borg Queen. It was like at the end, you're like checking the credits, like, holy crap, it was Alice Krige, which we did not. No one got spoiled on that. That was a great surprise.
That was not spoiled, and that was amazing.
Yep.
Of all the other ones, Sonia was a little bit spoiled, and we knew obviously Tom Paris. But the Borg Queen showing up and the things that she says, like so about good. Like drinking, oh my God, it was amazing.
A remarkable creature. Your design very nearly passes as human.
I am human?
Oh, wow. Then you need to drink more water. Your skin is a mess. But still, I think I should add your biological distinctiveness to our own. It's kind of our thing.
Are you sure? Because I've got hay fever and acid reflux. Adding me might result in a net negative for the collective.
Who needs to drink more water? Rich, what is your take on that awesome super Dabo Round pick?
It's great, and also it makes me very, very hopeful for the future, because there's a lot of characters they could use, and we haven't even begun to even play on some of the characters in DS9 yet. So I'm praying we'll get to eventually having like a Nana Visitor cameo or something like that, which would be so great. Find out what those characters.
Exactly. I mean, to me, Quark is like perfect for this show. I cannot.
Yeah.
I cannot.
I mean, there's so many Quark references at some point. I think Quark's going to show up somewhere. That is a great shout, Rich. Man, your mind just starts racing with all the potentials, especially inside this Lower Deck show. So good. Okay, Rich, what's your Dabo Round pick?
So I had a few that I struggled to pick between, and I was going to go controversial, but I'm going to go for ranks pips inconsistently. Oh, sorry. Careless cobbing causes continuity chaos. And my hashtag is Chain of Corn Mand. From episode 2, Kayshon, His Eyes Wide. It's the ranking pips continuity errors could be corn. I just think that joke just made me think of it encapsulated everything that has always been complained about canon and continuity, and Lower Decks just says, to hell with that. It's just easily explained away if you want it to be. I have this really simple rule about Star Trek in that everything is ridiculous and everything is amazing. Because if you look at it too hard, the cracks could start to form. Just enjoy it for what it is. And a Pip being out of place is a very, very small price to pay for such good quality programming. And it was nice to hear Jet say that. Oh, no, I didn't get promotion. It's just a bit of corn.
Whoa! Did you get double promoted? Congrats!
Huh? What do you mean?
You got a whole new Pip right there.
Just a piece of corn. That's always happening. Half the time when you see someone with wrong amount of pips around here, it's usually just delicious street corn. Want some?
Sure.
Oh my God. You know how much I hate nitpicking. So I love this pick so much. Please say your 5 words again. Careless cobbing?
Careless cobbing causes continuity chaos.
Oh my God. This is the best thing ever. I mean, and I'll add to your kind of mantra for Trek. Mine is always, you can explain everything away with one line of dialogue that wasn't on screen. Just don't worry about it. This is one of I was so happy with this. It's like, it was freeing. It was like, I mean, I didn't need it, but it was nice to have it in my back pocket now, just to be like, corn cob, who cares? Just anytime someone says anything, corn cob, there you go, buddy. I love it. Jet, this is fantastic. Carlos, what's your take?
It's a joke that really encapsulates and it's really representative of the entire show, right? Because on the one hand, lower decks, it could so easily fall into parody of Star Trek, but it never does. It's always on the side of like, no, we love this. We love this and we get this, right? And that fine line that they walk between just kind of parody of the genre and of the franchise and of different series, right? And of the characters and the situations. This joke reaches its full potential if you understand the background and the fact that people are nitpicking. I was like, wait, didn't Tuvok have 3 pips last episode? Why is he lieutenant? What? Like, and I'm with you, Jim. I just so don't care about that. I don't have time for it on Twitter. Yeah. I don't care. And I just loved it because it was such like an in-universe, joke at like, it doesn't matter actually. Just enjoy the ride.
It's freeing. Careless cobbing. That's going to be my new hashtag. All right. My round 3 pick for the Dabo round. 5 words and a hashtag. Carlos, Rich, please keep up. Hashtag. That's for calves. And of course, it is Cetacean Ops. Finally, from first contact, I'm just picking the whole thing. It took 30 years since it was first referenced in TNG. We already talked about it a little bit. We have finally seen Cetacean Ops, and I am picking it. This show is a miracle. We just talked about kind of skirting the line here. They just made the most goofy, nonsensical thing in Star Trek history canon. Right? Mm-hmm. It's just 2 communicative, sentient beluga whales who are both lieutenants, which means I'm assuming they're graduates of Starfleet Academy at some level. And they are helping out with the ship's navigation and Cetacean Ops. And I am here for it. Matt and Kimalu, I love you guys. I love that you're a little bit thirsty for Rutherford and a little bit snarky with Boimler. That's for calves. Keep up, man.
So, you guys doing anything for Captain Freeman Day?
It's just something we've dreamed about. And Mike McMahon, what a service he's doing for Star Trek. And bonus, the design of the room is incredible. Yeah. It's not a joke. It's real. Here's Cetacean Ops, and it's a real thing, and it's not part of the joke. It's an operational room inside this ship, the Cerritos, and probably on every ship. I freaking love it. And I just spent about $100 on Cetacean Ops stuff from StarTrekShop.com this weekend when they dropped everything. So there we go. Fantastic. Rich, what's your take on Cetacean Ops?
I mean, I always assumed it was going to be Xindi Aquatics who were in Cetacean Ops. So I was quite shocked initially, just because my own preconceptions were a bit challenged. But I
never thought that, by the way. I always thought there were dolphins and whales down there.
Same here, always.
George and Gracie descendants. But it just goes to show what like a fantastic show and crowbar for these sorts of ideas Lower Decks is, because there are things that they bring up that we would naturally in a live action show would go, maybe that might not work. But in Lower Decks, everything works. And this I just accepted it at face value. Of course it works. Of course there's a cetacean ops section on the Cerritos. Why wouldn't there be? It's a really good pick, and it was a really fun moment.
Why wouldn't there be? Carlos, anything else on cetacean ops?
So after I watch this episode, I sit down with Alicia, that's my wife, and I'm explaining to her cetacean ops, and I'm like, so I'm like getting overexcited and explaining to her, and totally deadpan after like my 3-minute Boimler-esque, and I'm not very Boimler-esque, but I was very Boimler-esque explaining the excitement of finally seeing how this like ridiculous concept come to life so beautifully, and my wife goes, how is that even remotely unexpected? There was an entire movie about whales. I was like, I guess you're correct. And she's like, ugh.
Oh, that's so good. I did not expect
Oh my God,
that.
it was so funny because I was like, there were 2 whales in there and they were thirsty for one of them, for Rutherford, and it was amazing. Oh, God.
All right, let's go to round 2. Carlos, who's your top character in round 2?
Top character. Okay. My 5 words are horses love me. Shut up. Hashtag stay in the way of control. It is my favorite character is Beckett Mariner. And I was like, let me get clever on this. Let me find something. And I was like, nope. Like, I love Beckett Mariner so much. Like 25-year-old Carlos and Beckett Mariner would have been best friends. Okay. Yeah. Like, I just love her. I love Tawny Newsome. I love her line delivery. You know, we talk about Jack Quaid and like loving him and his delivery. And he's such a foil, you know, to Mariner, but they work so well together as a little duo. And I love her character. I love her dynamic with every single character. I love her attitude because it's so refreshingly anti-Starfleet, you know, and she's so different to every other character. You're like, do you really want to be here? But then you're like, no, she really does. She loves this stuff and she's good at it. But that's just her. And I just think she's a great character. She's a great Star Trek character first and foremost, and a great Star Trek character that really stands out from the pack. I'm not criticizing the pack. I freaking love the pack. I love everybody in the pack. Well, almost everybody. But I love, but she stands out and she just is so funny and she lives life by her own rules. I could watch her give her sarcastic Vulcan salute, which is just like a big FU every day of the week. It's so good. That episode, in the first episode of season 2, when she's getting at the end, she's like, there are officers waiting to take me to the brig, right? And her mom is, and Captain Freeman is like, yep. And as she's being dragged down, she goes,
there's a team waiting to take me to the brig, isn't there?
You know me so well.
Love you, Mom.
Love you too. Never disobey me again.
I do what I want.
And so anyway, I'm sorry to be basic. I'm sorry to pick this.
Oh, not basic. She's a spectacular pick. Her character arc is so amazing. So amazing. All right, so does that mean I'm going to put you down for Strange Energies since you referenced it? What's your episode?
If you must, Strange Energies. Let's do.
Come on, man. We got to keep stats. God,
fine.
11 times on the show, people. Okay.
I mean, it's your fault. You keep asking me that.
What is your take on the amazing Beckett Mariner?
She has gone through such a journey, and she's so refreshing, but in a completely different way this season. The rebellion against Starfleet and her role in it as an entity was then replaced by, I'm being valued, but I don't like this light being shone too heavily on me. And I don't like my mum's attention too much. And that is a really interesting dynamic when you start to grow up and realize that, oh God, I love my parents like they love me. And seeing her rebel against a completely different thing and finding her own way by the end of the season has just been a joy to watch. And she is refreshing in a completely different way now. And seeing her, my favorite episode with her was probably Embarrassment of Duplers. Simply because that chase at the end and the desperation to get into the party and then realizing that what she had was more important was just such a nice moment as well.
Yeah, that is, you can't summarize it any better than that. Tawny Newsome, full credit.
If I could just add really quickly, you don't really go into it, but the show, and Rich said it beautifully, the show really has like these big season-long arcs for the main characters. And you're kind of watching it, and it's a cartoon, and it's an adult cartoon, blah, blah, blah. But it really, these characters grow very much so. And I think where Mariner ends at the end of season 2 is very different from where she's at the beginning of season 2. And it's a joy to watch.
It's pretty impressive. And it's true for all the characters, just like you said. I mean, amazing. All right, Rich, who is your top character?
Okay. My 5 words are vigorous Vulcan views viable victory. And my hashtag is adding insult to lingerie.
Yes.
The episode is 3 ships, or as we like to call it, or mispronounce it, Wage douche. Just
also from the north. He's also from the north of Florida.
So it's interesting seeing the Cheval and it being like a mirror for the Taccumbra, and there being a crew full of Vulcans and that same level of pig-headedness and arrogance that's not tempered by anything other than the end result and logic. And some of my favorite, I would say 2 of my top 5 Star Trek characters are T'Pol and Tuvok, and seeing how Vulcans exist alongside embracing that gut instinct and that level of humanity that is inside them, for want of a better word. She's channeling later stage human influence to T'Pol. She's a bit smug. She smiles when the captain agrees to change course. The snarky way she leaves and says, "Live long and prosper, Captain." And hearing her channel Spock as well with the logic is the beginning of wisdom and not the end. I would totally welcome her as a regular lower decker. I think it's coming next season. I think it would be insanity for them not to do it, to be honest, because she's proven so popular, and she was just a phenomenal character in a phenomenal episode.
How in 23, 24 minutes, and even less for her, it's probably 9 minutes of screen time. How can they accomplish so much? I mean, I feel like we got so much of this character in just this brief little nugget.
Yep.
Oh my God. I love this pick. I love this character. I'm so impressed. I'm convinced she's going to be back. I don't think she'll be on the Cerritos, but we'll see. I can't wait for her to come back. There's no doubt that the popularity, the way, I mean, she just took over. Everyone fell in love with this character. You summarized it perfectly with her emulation of Spock, with the logic, her snarkiness to the captain, with her smile and the live long and prosper. I love this character. I can't not put it in words any more than that. To Lynn, Carlos, what's your take?
She was amazing. And Rich, I mean, there's nothing really I can add. I mean, I love the fact that she really did look kind of like Valeris with the headband and the hair.
Right. She totally did.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. But I think she, and definitely had that kind of like, Mariner-esque rebellion, like Vulcan version, which I love. And, by the way, Rich, I do think now we're seeing this kind of, especially on like Star Trek Twitter, Tuvok and T'Pol are amazing characters for Star Trek. And T'Pol is, to me, one of, if arguably the greatest unsung hero of all of Star Trek. I
totally agree.
T'Pol.
Absolutely agree. I think they're going through a renaissance now, those two.
They really are. They really are.
No, 100% they're going through a renaissance. I was going to try to say it like you, Rich, and then I was like, oh wait, no, that's not my accent. A renaissance, but I think she was great, and I am 100% sure that she is going to pop up. Maybe not as a series regular, but we will see, the return of T'Lyn. And in fact, I just took a picture of it to prove it to you guys. On my notes, the first thing I wrote next to TrekRanks for today was just the name Kylin exclamation part, because I needed to bring her up in some way.
I love it. And let's give a shout out to Gabrielle Ruiz, the voice actor who was one of the main stars of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, a great show. Awesome. Really, really cool to have her and that character part of Trek. All right, let's close it out. My top character, and I'll just start off by saying I love these characters and especially love Boimler and Mariner and Tendi, who I think was who I picked in season 1. But something occurred to me early in this season, and it led to my pick. And I kind of grabbed onto this in the first few episodes, and I just think it just was a theme through the whole season. So my 5 words and a hashtag: badass captain knows what's up. Hashtag Happy Freeman Day. And it is Captain Carol Freeman, portrayed by Dawn Lewis, my episode's first contact. And I got to say, this was going to be my pick way before we got to the incredible season finale. It just hit me early on in the first half of the season that it's in a weird way, this Lower Deck show kind of, in my mind, became about Captain Freeman. She had this incredible arc through this season, from the Dupplers to the cliffhanger, from her figuring out the Pandronian shenanigans in I Excretus, and her talking down Ransom and Strange Energy. I just feel like there's always something happening in this show where she's at the end, in the center of it. And, you know, it's just amazing to me how this show became as much about the bridge crew, which I never expected, as it did about the Lower Deckers. So whether it's, you know, you picking Shax or Dr. Tiana, everybody loves, obviously Ransom. I mean, Captain Freeman was Riker's Chadich, you know, which was a reference in no small part. So, and then once we got to this epic cliffhanger, it just says everything you need to know about this character's place in Star Trek, that this whole episode revolved around her and her motivations. And she has this real, you know, Worf redemption moment, but like the reverse, right? Where she's being walked off the ship in shame and then incarcerated. It's huge. It's really unexpected. I love Captain Carol Freeman. She, to me, was the gravitational center of season 2 of Lower Decks, and it blew me away. Don Lewis, Carlos, what's your take on Captain Freeman?
You know, Captain Freeman all the way. I love the bridge crew, all 4 or 5 of them, depending on who you're counting. And I think Captain Freeman, you said it. You know, she is one of her relationship with Mariner is one of like the core gravitational pools of the entire show. And it wouldn't work if Freeman was herself not a great character, right? You know, Mariner needs an equal to go up against, and she's great. And what I love most about the character, I agree with everything you said, but to me, the thing that works is her relationship with Mariner, and that kind of push and pull, and in
Wedge Dush.
Yes, exactly. You know, when Boimler walks in on her and on both of them doing phaser training, and what they're talking about.
Oh God, so good!
It was
so good,
just so good, and it works because you really do believe that they're mother and daughter, and they fight and bicker like family. It's just wonderful. So, you know, just like Shax, I love the bridge crew and Freeman front and center.
I love it. Such a great scene when he walks in playing Velocity.
Exactly.
Rich, what's your take on Captain Carol Freeman?
She's been great this season. In the first season, she was painted as somewhat of an antagonist, and I think they've dropped that completely, and she has become a completely competent captain. Alliteration accidentally there. But she has, she's become absolutely a phenomenal captain who actually is quite analytical. And I think it's interesting that we all picked as our best character women characters this season, because they've just been so phenomenally well-rounded. And Trek can sometimes be accused of being quite surface level or exploitative sometimes when it comes to women characters. But this show is so good at making characters regardless of gender, and I think that's so important, and it's really shone through this season.
Yeah, I think your point about season 1 is legit. That there was times when she was a little bit too much the antagonist, or even in some ways maybe the butt of the joke. And just a couple of episodes where it was where they went too far. Whether it was terminal provocations, I think is probably temporal edict. Temporal edict was the one where the buffer time one.
Yeah,
but there was also one moment in season 1 where I fell in love with her is when I can't remember what episode it was, but they were negotiating it was Cupid's errant arrow, where they're negotiating the relocation of people off the moons, and then the guy kind of accidentally reveals that it's just 2 of them on this moon, and she's just like, "Wait, there's only 2 of you?" And he's like, "Yeah, me and my wife, we just redid the floor." So she just turns to the screen and goes, "Fire torpedoes!" And I love that. I love that moment. That's when I fell in love with Captain Freeman in season 1. But you're not wrong, Rich. Your breakdown was good. So this season, I loved her. Okay, let's go to round 1, our top episodes. Let's see where we're at with this. Could go anywhere. Carlos, what's your number 1 episode?
My 5 words are, your skin is a mess. Hashtag simply the best. And here, for what, Jim, I'm giving it to you, buddy. I'm giving it to you. I have picked an actual episode for this one. And it is episode 8 of the season, Excretus. I mean, honestly, again, I thought 5 out of the 10 episodes this season were an A to an A+ for sure. And the three-peat at the end of the last 3 episodes of the season, to me, were A+, A+, A+. But in my hearts of hearts, the one I love the most is this one. Just because it just plays like Star Trek's greatest hits. It just plays like, when you love a band and you just get their greatest hits albums. This to me is the equivalent of that. And I just loved it. I love every second of it. It's the episode, I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times since it aired. And it's got everything, paralyzed Klingon simulation,
That's right.
the Borg encounter, Wild West, like Star Trek 2, Mirror Universe, that scene where you get a flash of like the screen and then you kind of see basically, I mean, they're not all episode titles, but a good number of them are just episode titles.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And the way they use Boimler in such a Boimler-esque way, right?
Right.
It's just, to me, works so well. I just, the motion picture wormhole effect, right?
Oh, another one.
Come on.
Yeah.
The TAS alien. It really is just like, we're going to take things that people love from every era of Star Trek, and we're going to throw it in there in this new way. And I was just here for it every single second. And to me, I think it's probably I think it's my favorite episode. Not necessarily the best episode of Lower Decks to date, but it's definitely my favorite episode of Lower Decks to date. And I just enjoyed it. Every character was on point. Every one of our main characters got a moment to shine. The whole "we got pesto" line at the end was amazing.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say the flip between putting the lower deckers into the command roles and the command officers into the lower decks roles was really smart. I love that.
And also probably the funniest cold open in all of Lower Decks when they're on the satellite.
Yeah,
fixing the satellite.
And
it's just like this majestic view of space, and they're talking about the wonder of space and how amazing. And then they get left, and the ship just warps off. It's amazing. It's I think everything I want from the show in one episode, and it works. And Alice coming back as the Borg Queen, and what she says to Boimler, and Boimler being at his most Boimler, was just an absolute, just a joy to watch and so enjoyable. And I'm so happy and so glad this show exists, because I remember when they first announced the show, I was like, Yeah, this is not going to be for me. This is one Star Trek that I don't think is really going to work for me personally. And man, I could not have been more wrong. I love it. And I just think this episode is a triumph.
I love it. A great pick. Rich, what's your take on Excretus, which is just the best Borg name for Boimler?
Oh my God. I had to write it down phonetically because I didn't know how to say it.
Excretus, I guess it is. Excretus.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with Carlos 100% here. 8, 9, and 10 are just 3 phenomenal episodes. I think what I like most about this episode is if you gave it a nudge 2 degrees to the right, it would make such a great serious live action episode. Just having people stuck in training simulations is such a clever idea. Also, I really, really liked seeing Boimler's obsession. It was almost action movie-esque. It was so good.
So good.
And the ending is so Voyager's scientific method. It's which is one of my favorite episodes of Voyager.
I like that.
So great. The risky flying in at the seat of your pants to get rid of the alien or get rid of the threat was so scientific method, and it was so nice to see. It was just a homage.
That's a good. I like that connection to the scientific method. It did feel like that with the spatial anomaly. All right, that's awesome. It's funny because I disliked Sherry Yin Yem so much, and that is the name of the Andronian. I disliked that character so much that I got, just to be honest, it affected me a little bit with the episode. That I love every single thing about the simulations. Boimler as the Borg. I mean, that is just so smart. Every round, just one thing. He's got, ship keeps exploding. He's got the babies. I mean, it's just so smart. I love it. Okay, that is a fantastic deep cut, Carlos. I didn't see it coming. I love it. Rich, how about you? What's your number one?
So I was going to go with an obvious episode, but then I went for a more obvious episode. So plating plan produces plentiful presents. So my hashtag is to Hullen back. So it's first contact. I think this episode has absolutely everything in it. I think they just threw everything they had at this episode, and it completely 100% paid off. It's probably not the best of the season. That probably is episode 9, if I'm honest with myself. But this episode has elements of a race against time, an ingenious plan, science we hadn't completely seen before. I mean, we saw it slightly in Enterprise's minefield, but completely discharging the hull is such a great idea. We had existing things coming back, like the maglocks from First Contact, the manual control column, the pathfinding graphics from Star Trek Into Darkness, where they do the space jump, were replicated. And then not only have you got this like excellent episode, but you've got such great setups for season 3, like the mystery about Rutherford, the ending with Freeman, Tendy's promotion, Mariner's relationship with Jen, potential new lower deckers, and then the TNG font of "To Be Continued" gave me goosebumps. It was just perfect. It was a perfect 20 minutes of TV. It was just so good.
For that reason only, the "To Be Continued" graphic. Oh my God. I am so glad you picked this. It is all-time epic episode of Star Trek. I tweeted that I honestly think, and I don't know, and we're probably going to do this topic now that I came up with this, but I think it's the most heroic episode of Star Trek I've ever seen. Just from start to finish, I was just completely swept up in the mission here, and I love that there wasn't an enemy. Right? It was one of these episodes where the foil is something we have to overcome, and the idea, the execution, the losing the whole plating, and everybody being a part of it, and you felt like you were part of the entire crew working on this together. And then the incredible juxtaposition of the end of season 1 being it's the Titan coming to save us. And in this one, it's the Cerritos coming to save us. Just absolutely brilliant storytelling. And then I think in the end, this is going to be this two-parter. I mean, if it is a two-parter, we'll see. But I think this episode is only going to get better when we see the second part. It's one of those episodes, which is so cool. Carlos, what's your take on First Contact?
I loved it. We've already, mentioned elements of it, Captain Sonia Gomez, the Archimedes, I love that the entire taking off all of the hull plating. You always talk about the number of episodes, Jim. We have 800 episodes of Star Trek, and we've seen, I think of Endgame, where they put entirely like new armor on the ship or on the hull, but we've actually never really seen the reverse of them taking off the entire hull plating. We've seen pieces, think of like in Enterprise when with the Romulan episode, where they
Minefield,
Minefield, exactly. So you've seen elements of that, but for them to strip the entire ship was like a really cool. I feel like it's rare that Lower Decks gets to do something really new, right? They're always remixing or like always doing callbacks. And I thought this was new and cool and different. And it was, to your point, it was heroic. It was, I think Rich, you mentioned earlier that a lot of the space shots look real, and they do. And there are elements here that they look as good as any live action Trek. So I thought this episode was a brilliant finale, and I watched it. My Friday was because I obviously live in the UK, and so in the UK it doesn't air until Friday. And Amazon is really weird, and when it puts it on, Rich, I don't know if you keep a track on this, but like sometimes it's up really early, sometimes it's up really late. Like I there was one episode that wasn't on until like Friday afternoon. Right. So it's not like it drops at 12 o'clock or anything, but this one dropped kind of early, and I had a really packed day, and I only had 30 minutes between meetings, and I watched it in the middle of the day. Like I had literally 30 minutes, and the episode's like 26 minutes. And when the To Be Continued, the TNG style, it might as well have been a title card from TNG pops up. I was just, it filled me with, I was on the edge of my seat. I was so excited. I cannot wait for season 3. And then nostalgia that like flooded my body when I saw the To Be Continued. It was just triumphant and heroic and everything you want in Star Trek.
Yeah, it does it all. This episode does it all. It's incredible. And I will reiterate, it's only going to get better when we see the second part or the sequel. So, okay, let's go to my round 1 pick, my top episode, and we are going to get through this with no duplicates. So I appreciate that. We obviously, this is an episode we talked about quite a bit. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise.
It is logical to improve our scanning capabilities instead of observing non-essential systems.
These readings are within acceptable parameters.
Correct. However, this region has never produced this type of anomalous energy. Does that not seem strange?
Anomalies, by definition, are strange.
Something about this feels off.
Feels off? You have been spoken to about this before, T'Lyn.
It is illogical to ignore something of statistical significance. I must inform the captain.
She has lost all control.
My 5 words and a hashtag. She has lost all control. Hashtag the Lower Decks sequel to Lower Decks. And it is Wedgeduz, a.k.a. 3 ships. This, to me, is a special episode of Star Trek. It's hard for me to put into words how much I love this episode. It's one of my all-time favorites. My starting point for this is Mike McMahon, and I just appreciate and love like he does, I think, the mundane and subtle elements of Star Trek. I love Data's Day. I love when Geordi and Data are just talking about, his cat or getting a cat. It's one of the things that makes TNG so special is when they're just doing nothing. I know Mike McMahon loves that about this show.
Would anyone care for a game of chess when we are finished with our second duty shift?
No, I will be composing an arrangement for the lute, which should take several hours.
I am available for chess.
And this episode has all of that from the starting point where they obviously set it up as a day in the life type episode of Trek. And then once you realize, oh my God, we're jumping to the Klingon ship and the lower decks perspective of the Vulcan ship and the Klingons. And I'm just convinced that this episode's going to be remembered forever as one of the all-time greatest. And like we've talked about it, but this extended look inside the Vulcan ship is so cool. Plus we get the Pac-led clump ship and the Borg lower decks. So it's just incredible for me. And by the way, they connect it all incredibly to the season mystery of the Pac-leds who are getting help from the Klingons. And after seeing the final, I have to think that there's going to be more to it than just the Klingons and the Pac-leds. And I have a theory about that, but I'm going to keep it to myself for now because I don't want to put it out there in the universe too early. But I just love this episode. It's incredible. So, Carlos, any final thoughts on Wedge Douge?
I mean, look, I think we've picked all three of us picked what I think are the three best episodes of the season, and I think arguably the three best episodes of, at least from my perspective, of Lower Decks to date. And it just so happened that it came one right after the other. I love this episode. Yeah. I think I said when I picked my episode, when I picked Cerritos, I thought that it was the best episode of the season, but it was my favorite. I think this episode is the best episode of the season. I think it's the best episode of Lower Decks to date, right? And I think it is. I think you're right. This is going to be like the episode Lower Decks of TNG, right? Which this entire show is based on in many respects. It's going to be one of the all-time greatest episodes of Star Trek, and no matter no matter if Lower Decks runs for 3 or 7 seasons, this will be remembered as one of the greatest episodes of Lower Decks. It will always make everyone's list, and rightly so. And so, Jim, I had a hard time not picking it because I do think it was my favorite. I mean, it was the best
I get that
of the season.
Yeah, I totally get that. Rich, any final comments on 3 ships?
Exactly the same. It was the one I didn't pick, and I'm so glad you picked it. I'm so glad you picked it as well. But it might just be the best episode of Star Trek in this sort of new age of Trek that we've had. It certainly is my favorite.
Yeah.
We haven't even mentioned what a great character the Klingon crew member
Maha.
He is so great. It's because. And that's indicative of such a great episode, right? That even one of the things that you love gets pushed to the side because there's so many other great things to talk about. We haven't talked about how great the ship battle is, or just the excellent climax. It was just a glorious episode of Trek, and it just the elements of the story was woven together so expertly. They were transitions and they were so smooth. It's just a phenomenal episode of Trek, not just of Lower Decks. It's just a phenomenal episode of Trek. It's so accomplished, and it's just felt so good after watching it.
And it brings together the Pac-lets have been around since season 1. This episode starts saying, hey, maybe there is this kind of underlying season-long arc, much larger story that they're building up to that was kind of being told in front of our eyes, but many of us weren't paying that close attention. So it was masterfully put together.
Yeah.
And your reference to Ma'a, that guy, I mean, it's true to Trek. They tell a story about a Klingon lower decker, but he's 100% tied in. He's a Klingon, and he's honorable, and he cares. And I love at the end that he just says, okay, we're leaving to go back to the homeworld, to the High Council to check with them on what we should do, instead of trying to help somebody or something. He was very Klingon. He just said, we're out of here. I'm now the captain. We're going to go back to the Klingon High Council. Anyway, brilliant episode. The great point that part of it didn't even come up. So, okay, let's get into some secondary systems.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Carlos, anything you want to highlight?
There's one that I wanted to highlight, and it's Rutherford.
Good.
I love Mariner, but I have such, a love for Rutherford, and the first episode of this season. Today I was in the supermarket and I walked by the food aisle and I walked by pears, and in my head I just went pears, and it was he's amazing, and the the whales being kind of like completely thirsty for him was such a good joke. And he was totally oblivious to it too. You know? He's like, no, I can't do anything right now. So anyway, I just want a special shout out to Ensign Rutherford because he's great.
Okay, Rich, any quick secondary systems?
Just, I wanted to extol the virtues of Agamus and what an absolute fantastic character he was.
Yes.
I didn't get to use my hashtag, which was Domo Arigato Jeffrey Roboto. We get sort of greatest hits of Jeff Combs here because we get the silky diplomatic negotiation slurs of Wayoon.
Yes.
We get the cold anger of Shran. We get the obsequiousness of Brunt. It's just, if we can't have him in a full role again, this is just such a nice curtain call for him because he gets to play every part of who he is as an actor in this role.
Oh my God, that is so smart. You're so right. I knew there was something about it, and I am convinced we're going to see Agamus again.
Hope so.
I am
completely.
It has to happen. Okay, I'm just going to highlight 3 quick things. One, my toughest cut was Chris Westlake. His music is just incredible.
Yeah.
I just love Tendi so much. I always have to mention her, and I'm so glad we got to see her do some of the Orion stuff. And we'll always have Tom Paris. And my special shout out was going to be the Uss Archimedes, and I'm so impressed that you picked that. So awesome job. Okay, incredible. Let's get into our regeneration cycle and recap all of our picks.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Carlos, rattle off your top 5.
My top 5 for my production design, it was the exterior and interiors of the Vulcan and Klingon ships. Round 4, my top performer was Fred Tatascore, however his name is pronounced. I apologize to the actor. He's amazing. And it's really just Shax and particularly all of his one-liners from this season. Yeah. My round 3 is for the Robin round. I just picked all the stars from Trek's past, which are just, they added so much seasoning to the entire season, and I loved it. My round 2, my favorite character, shout out to Beckett Mariner, who I love deeply. And last but not least, round 1, my favorite episode for round 1 is I Excretus.
Just love hearing you say Excretus. Okay, Rich, what are your top 5?
So for my production design element, I had the USS Archimedes. For my top performer or creative, I had the art direction for the whole season, but mainly for Kayshon, His Eyes Open, Barry Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
For my wildcard rank, I had Korn in place of Command Pips. For my character, I had the amazing Talin. And for my episode, I had the season finale, First Contact.
Brilliant. Oh, that corn cob pick. So good. All right. My top 5. My production design element was the humor and the comedy of this show. We'll always have Tom Paris. Number 4, my performer was Jack Quaid, and I highlighted him in Kayshon, His Eyes Open. My Dabo Round pick for round 3 was Cetacean Ops from First Contact. By the way, we didn't talk about what a great joke First Contact is too.
Yeah.
They're so good.
So good. Good.
My top character was Captain Carol Freeman, portrayed by Don Lewis in First Contact. And my top episode, Wedge Doge, 3 ships, Klingon font on the screen, just an absolute perfect episode of Star Trek. So the only stats we're going to pick here or highlight are the number of episodes mentioned, even though I had to do it for Carlos. So there were 7 episodes mentioned, including 2 that I picked for Carlos, Strange Energies and Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. Also, we'll always have Tom Paris. I Excretus had 2 picks. Kayshon, His Eyes Open, 3 picks. Wedge Doge, 3 picks. And leading the way was First Contact with 4 picks. That's our quick stats, but as we do every week, we've been hit by a temporal distortion. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The temporal distortions are fracturing space-time throughout the ship.
Cause? Unknown.
Oh, we know the cause, Mr. Tuvok. It's all that amazing feedback that we continue to receive from our listeners here at TrekRanks. And this week's Temporal Distortion has sent us back to episode 114 and our top 5 high-concept DS9 episodes. Got 3 very, very cool lists. I'm going to rattle them off really quick here. They're fast. First, from Deb Moltisanti, friend of the show at Silverdoe25. She had an awesome all-orb list of high-concept picks. So her number 5, Orb of Wisdom, Profit Motive. Number 4, Orb of Prophecy, Rapture. Number 3, Orb of Time, Trials and Tribulations. Number 2, Orb of Contemplation, Tears of the Prophets. I'm going to cry. Number 1, Orb of the Emissary, Shadows and Symbols. I love that. Clever list.
Such a good list.
Yeah, it's so good.
Good list.
All right, another list from Ariel K, who has now been on the show at Ariel K18, and I love her hashtag. She did the episodes and hashtags only. Number 5, Honor Among Thieves, hashtag Bilby loved his cat. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry again. Number 4, Whispers, hashtag O'Brien is the imposter, and this one is so good. Number 3, Extreme Measures, hashtag Bromance beats Sloan, hashtag Sloan's brain. I've never heard Sloan's brain. That's just too smart. Number 2, It's Only a Paper Moon, hashtag DS9's best character arc, which I 100% agree with. Yeah. And number 1, Little Green Men, hashtag Take Me to Your Nagus, which is really good. Really, really good. And then our last one from our friend Jamie McGregor at JMacRef. He did the same thing with episodes and hashtags. Number 5, Whispers, hashtag Disturbing Paranoia Fest. Number 4, A Man Alone, hashtag So Good the Orville Borrowed It. And I love that because the Orville straight up did a Man Alone episode, which, man, I love the Orville people, but don't copy Star Trek episodes. Stop doing it. It's no fun. I don't want to see that. And they do it a lot. Number 3, If Wishes Were Horses, hashtag Buck Buckeye and Rumpelstiltskin. Number 2, Things Past, hashtag Odo Got Skeletons 2. That's good. Number 1, Second Skin, hashtag Genius Pitch, Kira is a Cardassian. So, yes, a fantastic feedback on DS9 high concept episodes. Those lists more than enough to clear ourselves from this week's Temporal Distortion. So, as always, I want to thank everyone for all the great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. Please keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 Lower Deck Season 2 moments or a list from any of our past shows and give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. Or you can just record it and send me a DM on Twitter, and we can do it that way too. So hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, we are doing an awesome, awesome topic. I can't wait. I'm very excited about this one. This is an idea I had about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been thinking about when is the right time to do it. It's a real niche topic, so it's not the easiest one. But then I started seeing these season trailers for the setup for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, and the fact that there's going to be some kind of massive anomaly that they're dealing with as a bit of a foil in Season 4. And it hit me that we can do it as our Season 4 preview for Discovery, which is coming up. It's our top 5 spatial anomalies. That's right. We are doing, there's so many spatial anomalies in Star Trek. So Carlos and Rich, I'm going to put you guys on the spot. If you had to choose one spatial anomaly in Star Trek history that you love, what would it be, Carlos?
Oh my God, I'd have to go for back-to-back either the spatial anomaly that travels backwards in time in All Good Things and the Nexus, like both written by Brandon Braggett and Ronald Moore, one right after the other. Oh, come on. Those are amazing spatial anomalies.
The perfect time to drop in another Lower Decks joke.
Or maybe he got Genesis device or a time ribbon.
Or he was trapped in the Nexus.
Nexus, time ribbon, same.
Anyway, that's a great pick. I love it. Rich, how about you? A spatial anomaly.
I'd have to go for the spatial anomaly from Cause and Effect.
Oh, yeah. So the original temporal causality loop. Oh, there you go.
I'd have to. It's such a great episode, and it if I think of favourite Trek episodes, that's always in my list, no matter my mood.
Yeah.
So it's just so good.
You and Captain Bateman love the temporal causality loop. It's like Tychon's Rift or something. Is that Tychon's Rift? No, I don't know.
No.
Tychon's Rift is from Night Terror or something. Anyway,
Yes,
okay. All right. Anyway, it's going to be an awesome episode. I can't wait to do it. And before we wrap it up here, a huge thanks to Carlos Miranda and Rich Masters. It was awesome to have you guys on the show.
I was wondering if you could show me how to access these subspace communications logs.
And we're going to do that right now, Mr. Neelick. So any final Trek subspace communications either one of you guys want to relay before we depart? Carlos.
No, it's always an absolute blast. Jim, thank you so much for having me on the show. It is. I can't think of anything better than spending a couple of hours geeking out about the thing, that I love most. So thanks.
I love it. Rich, thanks for coming on, man. It's great to finally get you on.
Oh, no worries. I was absolutely honoured. This is we talked off mic about how this is the perfect cross between my interests, cartoons and Trek. So thanks for having me on.
And don't forget ramen and ramen.
Oh, and ramen, and obviously Carlos and my budding friendship.
Ramen ranks coming to you.
Ramen
coming
ranks,
soon.
exactly.
Okay. All right. Huge thanks to everyone for engaging with us again here on episode 122 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
Well, since you're new Rutherford, I figured it was time for a new model.
Oh, it comes with an Esri and a Jadzia. Thanks, Tindy.
Let's never finish this one.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
You know what? This worked out pretty well. Everyone I actually like to socialize with is here.
Yeah, turns out this is the best party in the quadrant, right? Number one?
Right.
Hey. No, too late. You're my number one now.
It doesn't work like that.
Yes, it does. I watched it happen.
No, Captain, don't do that. I want to redo.
No, you're my sidekick from now on.
I am not.
One was my number one. Now he has to grow a beard.